Welcome to my Boomer Buddies podcast, where my Boomer Buddies tell it like it was and is. We're just like the old guys we used to listen to in the diner, sitting in the same booth every day, telling tall tales and offering up words of wisdom. Well, guess what? We're the old guys now, and we've got our own podcast, and we hope you will find our banter fun, entertaining, and at times enlightening. Hi, I'm Rick Reed, and I'm the host of this show, my Boomer Buddies podcast. And today we're going to spotlight one of the Boomer Buddies. He's my awesome, great friend. I've known him for 47 years, I think it is now. His name is Bill Neuenfeldt. Let's just start off with who you are, your background. You know, we don't have to go through all 66 years of it, but your background and how we met. Let's start with that.
Came from a middle-class family, suburbs of Minneapolis, youngest of three kids. Dad was a salesman. Mom was mostly a homemaker, but worked part-time. They're Depression era folks, they were. And I'm, I guess, as we say, a boomer. So, but my background, just went to high school in Minneapolis area, went to college out at the University of Minnesota Morris, where I met our host, Rick, and formed a great friendship with he and a bunch of other really good guys as part of a close-knit group, and we've stayed in touch for a long, long time. And so who I am, I'm a pretty much financially conservative, socially liberal guy, although I don't get too liberal, but I enjoy a good time. I have a positive mental outlook, and I'm just a working class guy. I worked most of my life as a salesman, and I'm fortunate enough now to have changed to a career in aviation, which is, we maybe talk about that later, but aviation's red hot right now. So lucky enough to be doing that. So
you covered that pretty well, Billy.
Yeah.
I think the common bond with all us Boomer buddies, even though we didn't necessarily grow up in the same community, we had similar experiences where the neighborhood, back in the day, you could go out and play. You didn't have a cell phone you're looking at all day. You'd go play, you'd find things to do. You'd come home when the street light came on, right, Billy? And
don't be
the thing
on the street when the street light came on.
Yeah, you got to get home. And then sometimes you stayed out a little later. But the other thing is the other parents in the neighborhood, they were able to, straighten you out if you needed it. If the group was getting out of line, like throwing rocks or something at houses and windows, and they'd come out and yell at you, there wouldn't be a lawsuit against them for, making sure you're doing the right thing. And back then there's a lot of common sense that we tried to follow, and they tried to impress that upon us. So I knew your parents, great people, WC and Marguerite, really enjoyed them, and they raised some good kids. And you were the youngest in the family. You were the baby.
Yeah.
So, and I'm the oldest, so there's a little difference in the orders, but the bottom line is we were all raised pretty well. We weren't angels by any means, right? Our halos were tilted a little bit,
I got
but
into
we always
some trouble. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But you know what? With trouble, you learn lessons, right? And then
Sure.
hopefully you don't repeat them. But we always knew where the center was. We knew where we had to get back to, common decency and all that stuff.
I think it all goes back to the community itself, not just individuals, but the community itself had a great moral compass, and everybody followed that great moral compass. There were a few outliers, but I don't think we have that as much today. Everybody has their own reality today.
Well, I know we've had private discussions, recently. Yeah, we've had discussions about this, how it's easy to hide behind that keyboard on your phone
Sure.
or on your computer. You sound pretty brave, and you can make some outlandish statements and try to feel good about yourself. But you know what? You got to be accountable. And with the community, you can be accountable, right?
Yep.
So we need to get back to that. common sense, accountability. And that's one thing about my boomer buddies that I want to say. We are all accountable to each other, us buddies. Back in the day, if we were getting out of line, you might get a little smack in the back of the head, like, "Hey, Rick, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do it." What would Mugg say?
And
My
by the
brother.
way, I know Rick's parents or knew, God bless his soul, the Big Dick and Muggs. So great people. In fact, they took me in for a brief period when I was in transition in post college employment, and so yeah, so I've lived in their home for you know for a time. So a wonderful place,
Oh,
by the way.
and it was great. 6 kids, right? Two parents and Newt. Bill. Bill's nickname is Newt. Um,
Yeah.
and my siblings still talk about you living there. Can you imagine? I'm sure you can, you boomers that are listening. You got all those people under one roof and one bathroom, one shower, right? So old Bill, he's staying at our house. He's downstairs, and he sees there's plumbing down there with a spigot, a shower head that goes into the drain, by the laundry area. So Bill, tell the audience what you did.
Well,
Typical Bill Neuenfeldt move.
we created a shower downstairs. We put up a ring, hung a plastic curtain on rings on the pipe, on the ring of pipe, and a shower head. And my gosh, we had ourselves a downstairs shower. It worked actually quite well. And then
Yeah.
Rick's mom, Muggs, went to scheduling. And I mean, you had a time. Here's your time. Here's your time. Here's your time. You got in then. You got out then. There was no worried about, oh, I need my privacy. I need my time. It was in and out, and we were all in it just for the functionality of it all.
Yeah. And I remember that you got a small pallet to put over the drain,
Oh,
so
that's
we didn't have
right.
to stand on the floor. You got a small
That's right.
pallet, and it was
Yep.
just genius. You know, Listeners out there, and we want you to feel like a family, part of the Boomer Buddies family, part of the neighborhood. That's typical of what Bill does. He makes it better for everybody else. He's just got a great mind. He's a real character too. We're gonna have him tell the joke in a little bit, but again, this is a spotlight episode for Bill Neuenfeld, also known by a lot of people as Newt. And speaking of a lot of people, everywhere you go, somebody seems to know Bill. Okay, it's just crazy. He knows them from somewhere, or he knows somebody. He can schmooze, start up conversations with anybody, and it could be seemingly like you just go to the store in a different town, and he'll just start schmoozing with the cashier, and all of a sudden they have a common person they know, and then it's like they've been friends forever. That's Bill Neuenfeld. You have a gift.
One of the nice things about the internet, one of the nice things, is they say it reduces the degrees of separation. In
Hmm.
other words, because of the internet, we have a larger network, and when our networks rub up against one another, we can figure out where they rub up against one another. Used to be no internet, no social media, none of this. I could say to someone in Fort Lauderdale that I knew so and so in Fort Lauderdale, and they probably wouldn't know them. But now it's easier to find those people that you know, or find where you've rubbed up together with others, creating some commonality. And if you take that to the in person experience, you already have a friend. Even better. Win win.
Exactly. Well, we've always been impressed with the people you've known and do know. And in fact, I'm going to tell a little story here about Bill. I bought my second house in a suburb of Minneapolis. It's called Plymouth. I had been living for 4 years in a little bungalow in South Minneapolis, me and my dog. And so bought this house out in Plymouth, split entry, bachelor pad, downstairs unfinished. Had plans to finish that off, but closed on at August 15th, 1991. And I got a couple of sparse things moved in. Well, Bill's town ball team was in the state tournament, and he decided to invite half his team to spend the night at my house. So all the floor space was taken up. I didn't even get to take the first bathroom visit in my own house after I closed. But that's what friends do. It's a memorable story, and they
man.
I don't know where was it was south of here about an hour, or where was the tournament at? I don't even remember.
I think it might have
Not
been
important.
it was down near Northfield somewhere.
Yeah, not important.
Anyway.
This was a gateway from where your town team was from to get there. And Bill just said, "Yeah, we can stay at Dick's." Well, that's a nickname for me too, Dick. You know,
We all have nicknames.
he's new and I'm Dick, and it's
hopefully
like
the good ones. Hopefully the good nicknames stick, right?
hopefully,
Shed the bad ones.
So they stayed at Dick's. And I was happy to do it. But it's just ironic that that new car smell, whatever you want to call it. I shared it with everybody. But
it's
that
funny
was
when you tell a story like that, others pop up in my mind.
Let's go. That's why we're here.
I still remember that you and Vikstrom got tickets to Stevie Ray Vaughan at Alpine Valley.
Yeah.
And you said, we got tickets for us, Newt. And I'm like, oh my God, this will be great. Well, in town ball, we all play for the playoffs. I mean,
sure.
Playoffs. I mean, sorry, but if our wedding day was on a playoff baseball game day, I probably wouldn't get married. I don't know. Of course, I've been divorced 3 times, so don't rely on me for advice. But anyway, I couldn't make it. I was just bummed out, but Dick and Vic went to Alpine Valley and saw Stevie Ray. Concert was over. Wow, what a wonderful concert. Great concert. The helicopter lifts off. Stevie Ray crashes. That's the end of Stevie Ray. So these guys got to see Stevie Ray's last performance, and it became a very epic performance for that reason.
Yeah. By the way, that was an amazing group that played that night at Alpine Valley. That's in Wisconsin, by the way. So we went over from Minnesota over there. It's an outdoor amphitheater setup. It's ideal for music. And the people on the bill that night was a guy by the name of, maybe you know him, Bill, Eric Clapton.
Oh,
Jeff Healey.
Wow.
Yeah, Jeff Healey was on there. Robert. That'll come to me in a minute, but Stevie Ray and his band Double Trouble, 3 guys, they make the best music, or they made the best music. They blew everybody off the stage, even Clapton. Robert Cray was the other one. So you got all these blues people. Yeah. Jeff Healey. Jeff Healey was amazing. He's blind. And he plays on his lap, plays it backward, with his fingers backwards on the frets. But he was standing up, kind of leaning and playing, and everybody got into it. But there's something about Stevie Ray that night that was magical. And then, like you said, after the show, fog, boom, side of the hill, Alpine Valley.
Let that be a lesson to all of us. Live your every day like it could be your last. Enjoy your days.
Right. And there's other stories that came out of that too. But, we'll save all that for another time. But the part of what we do, Boomer friends out that are watching and listening, is music is a big part of what we went through. And to this day, we still enjoy music, and it was a common bond. And we all like different kinds of music. And I just want to explain here on this podcast, we're going to spotlight the other Boomer buddies. You mentioned Dan Vikstrom, Vic. He's one of the buddies. He'll be on an episode. And Joe Chesley's another one, Ches. He'll be on an episode as well. And you're going to get to know these guys and feel like they're friends, great friends who'll do anything for you, just like I feel for them. So let's talk a little bit more to Bill Neuenfeldt, a.k.a. Newt. We played college baseball together, had some good times doing that. And there's stories that I don't know if we should tell right now anyway, about that.
You know what comes to mind right away, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
the three University of Minnesota
Oof.
Morris station wagons going to Fergus Falls. Yeah, yeah. Well, stay tuned for another episode for that one.
Is the
We don't want
statute
to.
of limitations up already?
Well, we don't want to wreck things right away, right at the
Okay.
get go. We don't not at the get go. Um,
All right.
One thing I want to talk to you about is your first car. I don't even think I know what your first car was because boomers always had a first car they were proud of, it seems
My
like.
first car that I owned myself was a 1962 Chevy 2 Nova. And when I bought it, the floorboards were completely rusted out.
Hmm.
So I went to cutting some of that rust out, and then I took some galvanized steel and just
Yeah.
pounded it into place and put some sheet metal screws through it, and got it to where you could, the floor pans were fine and you could drive it, and the tires were bald as bald can be. It was a 4-door, and I was dating a girl up in one of the rural communities out in west central Minnesota at the time, and her dad saw these tires that were just bald, and he bought me a set of tires. Of course, that was when you
Oh,
bought bias ply tires for a car
yeah,
like that, and
yeah.
they were like $20 a piece or $25. I think he bought the whole set for 100 and a quarter, mounted and balanced. But I was living it large. A 3 in the tree, 6-cylinder, 1962 Chevy 2 Nova was kind of a dusky green, army greenish, and man, I was living it, and I drove that thing for, I don't know, probably a couple of years, and I ended up selling it for 3 times what I paid for it.
Okay, two
So
questions. How,
yeah.
how much longer did you date that gal?
That question is incompetent,
Did
irrelevant, and
did the
immaterial.
dad get to hang out with you enough to make that worthwhile, or
Well, we
that
dated for
investment?
probably another 6 months, maybe,
Hmm.
and she was a year younger than me, so we were. It was the summer of my college year. It wasn't even 6 months. It was probably 3 months, and she went off to school and found her another boyfriend, and I sold the car then, and I found another car then as a result of uh, back in the day, if you were a minor child under the age of 21, and I don't know if you had to be in college or not, I think you did, and your primary parent, father, was on Social Security, you also could get a check from Social Security. So my
Really?
dad turned six. Yeah, I was again the youngest of a bunch.
Right.
I think I ended up at the time getting a check for like $350 a month for about a year and a half. And when that came available, out went that old Chevy too. I sold it and I bought me a Mercury Bobcat wagon, Woodside.
You had
Oh,
a
I was
Woody?
living it large. Oh yeah, put a big stereo in it. I had home speakers in the back end. All you had to do was open that hatchback tailgate, turn those speakers around, and you had yourself a party, man.
Well,
But
let's talk
so
about parties. And college parties were keggers
oh,
mainly, right? You'd go to a field somewhere, you'd turn the speakers on in your car, and yeah, yeah.
man, when we
So
got to college, you could have a kegger on the floor in the dorm
in your
because
dorm,
18 was the legal drinking age. Just
that's
don't get out
correct.
of hand. And we didn't really. I mean, it never really got out of hand. So
Eh, on my
okay.
floor, yeah, somebody threw a mattress out the window, third floor,
Oh boy.
and we kind
Yeah.
of snuffed out having one on in our. I don't know if it's the dormer floor, but yeah, we ended up. Uh, for the listeners and viewers, we ended up joining a fraternity together too. And keep in mind when we say fraternity, it's not like a large school where you got fraternity row. We had us and then the other fraternity. And generally speaking, it was a place for young lads to get together and live together and have an excuse to party, and also just with our fraternity, we're well-grounded guys. We got a little crazy
Well,
sometimes, but overall we were pretty good dudes.
we partied, but there was a lot of academic exchange in our fraternity. We had some. I mean, I wasn't the brightest bulb in the fixture, and
Yeah,
a lot of these guys really helped me, you know. So
well,
get me college, get me educated,
we'll talk about Arkansas in a minute. Okay, you're throwing in your accent there, but we'll tell that story in a minute. But I just want to say that when I went to college, you had to take um, freshman comp, which is an English course where you have to write research papers, right? Well, the high school I went to was at a high school, great teachers, but let's just say that when I went there, traditional English was an elective. You could take other things to get by, like youth and dialogue, where you sat
uh,
around in a circle and you talked to each other. They used to call it rapping, before rap music. Rapping
yep,
meant to talk.
yep.
So we would talk. Or you could take survival, which meant you could scale off the roof of the high school building and go down the wall. That was all part of the English department, as I remember. So being a knucklehead, I took the easy way out, you know, being a baseball player,
Why not?
I got by in high school. I could have applied myself better, but I wanted to say the teachers were fantastic. I really loved the teachers from Wayzata High School back in the day. But if I had to go back, I wish somebody would have impressed upon me to take traditional English, which brings me to college. All right, write a research paper. A what? You know, you
Oh,
have to be
what?
able, you have to research it, and you have to, give credits to, resources and
Right.
what? So I had help from a couple of my fraternity brothers helped me figure out how to do a research paper. And I actually was able to do a good job with it once I found out how to do it. But I give thanks to the brothers, in our frat. So,
Well, just quickly, we had a
yeah.
class in high school which had a real lot of value, and of course, it goes to our love of music, called
Mhm.
poetry in song. And we
Ooh, I
had
would
this
like
old
that.
hip. Oh, we had an old hippie. Carrie George taught it, and we'd walk in the class, and every class was a bit of research or a talk about a particular song. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of protest era songs. There was a lot of societal messages being pushed across by a lot of the musicians. And so it was really great. Uh, as you can imagine, some of the highlighted artists were Bob Dylan,
Yeah.
Buffalo Springfield, the people that were talking about what was going on in our country. So it was great. That was a really great poetry and song.
Yeah.
And yes,
So
no English composition for Newt. None.
or for Dick.
Man. Yeah.
So so I
The
just
only
want
thing
to
we
say
couldn't do the only thing we couldn't do before class was smoke a fatty.
oh, that's
Anyway.
funny. At our school, not a fatty, not weed or anything, but if you smoked, there was a designated area you had to go smoke. It's not like they said you
Yeah.
can't smoke.
Yeah.
They
They
said
have that
kids
too.
are going
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah, yeah. So I want to take at this point right here. Um, I want everybody listening and watching that are getting to know me and Billy to be able to comment. We want your feedback, and just if you have some stories that we maybe stirred up in you, or if you just want to react to what we're saying, please email us at myboomerbuddies4, the number 4, myboomerbuddies4 at gmail.com. And I'll share it with the guys, and we'll answer whatever you put forth to us. So again, that's myboomerbuddies4, the number 4, at gmail.com. Want to thank you for joining us. That was my Boomer Buddies podcast, Spotlight on Bill Neuenfeldt. That's episode 1. Episode 2 will follow in about a week or so. You can find us on Spotify, Google, and Apple platforms. Thank you for listening. Until next time, we'll see you around the block.